Want to speak real Spanish from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at SpanishPod101.com.
Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: how can I decide if I have to write B or V in Spanish? In Spanish, the letter B and the letter V have the same sound, but they are written differently. So, how do you know which one to use? Despite some exceptions, there are some rules that can help you to pick which letter to use. Let's start with B. The words that usually use B can be divided in 4 groups. First, all the words that begin with bu, bien or bene, and B. For example, butaca, meaning armchair, bienestar, meaning wellness, and bisonte, bison. Second, all the words that end in bilidad, bundo or bunda. For example, amabilidad, kindness, moribundo, moribund, and nauseabunda, nauseating. Third, all the verbs whose infinitive forms end with ver, bir, and buir. For example, beber, to drink, saber, to know, and escribir, to write. Fourth and last, all of the past imperfect verbs whose first conjugation ends in aba. For example, compraba, I was buying, or cantaba, I was singing. Now let's see the rules for V. The words that usually use V can be divided in 4 groups. First, all the words that begin with V, div, ev. For example, vivir, to live, divertido, funny, and evento, event. Second, all the forms in present indicative, imperative, and subjunctive of the verb ir, to go. For example, voy, I go, or ve, you go, in the imperative. Third, all the adjectives that end in ave, avo, evo, and ivo. For example, suave, soft, and decisivo, decisive. Fourth and last, after be, di, en, or all. For example, obviar, to obviate, advertir, to warn, enviar, to send, olvidar, to forget. And that's it. But as you might already know, Spanish always has tricky exceptions, but don't worry, you'll get used to them in no time. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta pronto! See you soon! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are diminutives and how do you use them in Spanish? Appreciative suffixes are added to the end of a word to express an emotive or affective appreciation or to show an opinion. They are classified into 3 types: diminutives, augmentatives, and pejoratives. In this lesson, we'll discuss the diminutives. Vamos allá! Let's go! Diminutives are used to emphasize that something is particularly small or short. They are also used to express love and affection. Let's go through some examples so you can learn how to use diminutives correctly. A very common one is ito or ita. For example, from the word escalera, stairs, we have escalerita, if we want to express that the stairs are small. Another example, from gato, cat, we get the word gatito, adding tenderness to our expression. You can even use this with names such as Juan to Juanito, when you are talking about someone colloquially, most likely a child. Another common suffix, particularly in Andalusia, The southern Spain is illo or illa. From libro, book, we get librillo, small book. We also have the suffix ete or eta, used more informally. In this case, from amigo, friend, we have amiguete, to express tenderness or affection for our friend. Lastly, with more local use, particularly found in Galicia, northern Spain, we find the suffix iño or iña. From pobre, poor, we can say pobriño, also adding a sense of tenderness. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you soon!
Welcome to Introduction to Spanish. My name is Alicia, and I'm joined by...
Hi everyone, I'm Leah.
In this lesson, you'll learn the basics of Spanish grammar. Word order refers to the order in which words are structured to form a sentence in a given language. Consider the English sentence, I read books. If we break down the English sentence, I read books, we can see that the subject I is presented first, followed by the verb read, and then finally the object, books, is positioned last. The basic word order for English, then, is subject, verb, object, or SVO for short.
Now, let's compare that same sentence, I read books, in Spanish. Yo leo libros. If we break down the Spanish sentence, we get the subject, yo, meaning I. Then comes the verb, leo, meaning read. And finally, we have the object, libros, meaning books. The word order for basic Spanish, then, is subject, verb, object, or SVO for short.
As you can see, the word order for sentences in Spanish is the same as that of English. This means that you can essentially swap out English words for Spanish words in an English sentence to convert it to Spanish. So imagine you wanted to say, I ate an apple, but in Spanish. Just swap out the words.
I in Spanish is yo. Ate in Spanish is comí. An is una, and apple is manzana. Altogether, it's yo comí una manzana.
So, I ate an apple in Spanish is...
Yo comí una manzana.
You can form nearly all basic sentences in Spanish just by following the SVO word order. We just saw how easy it was to form basic sentences in Spanish and how similar it was to forming basic English sentences. Luckily, it's actually even easier to form sentences in Spanish than it is in English. That's because Spanish is much more flexible when it comes to word order compared to English. Let's go back to the two examples we used earlier. More often than not, if we wanted to say, I read books and I ate an apple in Spanish, we would not usually say,
Yo leo libros. Yo comí una manzana.
But instead we would just say,
Leo libros. Comí una manzana.
Notice how the subject I is omitted from the sentence. This is how most Spanish sentences are constructed and spoken in real life.
When it's clear who or what the subject is, most Spanish speakers would omit the subject altogether. Yo leo libros and yo comí una manzana would only be used if the subject is unclear or if you wanted to place a stronger emphasis on the subject, as if to say, I am the one who reads books, or I was the one who ate the apple.
So, most of the time, we can actually express any simple action in Spanish with just two words, the verb and the object in Spanish. So far, we've only looked at affirmative sentences in Spanish. But what if you wanted to make the sentence negative?
Well, that's very easy as well. All you have to do is just add no before the verb and that's it.
So, I don't read books would be
No leo libros. Same thing for I didn't eat an apple. Just add no before the verb. No comí una manzana. And that's all there is to it.
Once again, it's much simpler to form questions in Spanish than it is in English.
There's actually a variety of different methods of forming a question in Spanish. Let's go through some of them. Will seem a little strange if we ask our own selves a question in Spanish. So let's introduce a new subject. Let's go with Juan, a very typical Spanish name. So instead of I read books, we now have Juan reads books. Juan lee libros.
The simplest way we can turn that statement into a question is by just raising our intonation at the end of the sentence.
Juan lee libros? Meaning, does Juan read books?
In conversation, we just need to raise the intonation at the end to express that it's a question. In writing, however, we have to include the question mark at the end, just like in English. But unlike English, questions in Spanish are marked with an inverted question mark at the beginning of the question as well.
Juan lee libros.
Another simple way we can turn a statement into a question is by adding a question tag at the end of a sentence. One question tag in English, for example, is right? Something something statement, right? It works in exactly the same way in Spanish.
Juan lee libros, no? Juan reads books, doesn't he?
The final way to make a sentence in Spanish is to actually switch the verb and the subject. So statements in Spanish would normally be SVO, but to formulate a question, it'll be VSO. The verb and subject are switched.
¿Lee Juan libros? Meaning, does Juan read books?
All of these questions mean the same thing, but they're not completely identical. There are tiny nuances that go along with the method you use to formulate a question.
The first and last examples appear to have exactly the same meaning, but Juan lee libros places a greater emphasis on Juan because the subject appears first in the sentence, as opposed to lee Juan libros, where the emphasis is on the verb.
As you can see, there are many ways to form basic questions in Spanish. In this lesson, you learned about the word order of Spanish, how to form affirmative and negative sentences, about the omission of the subject, and how to form questions.
Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, what are augmentatives and how do you use them in Spanish? In another lesson, we talked about diminutives, which are expressive suffixes used to emphasize that something is particularly small or short, or to show affection. In this lesson, we'll discuss augmentatives. Augmentatives are expressive suffixes that emphasize that something is big or has great importance. We'll talk about the most common ones in this lesson. Let's do some examples so you can learn how to use augmentatives correctly. On or ona are common augmentative suffixes, and they are used with words like cabeza, meaning head, to make cabezón, a big head. Note that sometimes this is used in a bad or mocking sense. For example, from barriga, belly, we get barrigón, a big belly. Another commonly used suffix is azo or aza. From éxito, success, we get exitazo, to express that something was a great success or a big success. Sometimes, when the word is combined with a tool or utensil, it explains an action that was performed with that tool. For example, bastón, stick, becomes bastonazo and means to hit with a stick. The same happens with pelota, ball, becoming pelotazo, to hit with a ball. Lastly, the suffix ote or ota is commonly used with names and adjectives that apply to people. It's also used for making things seem bigger. However, this one can have a more affectionate sense or can be a soft way of making fun of someone. However, it always depends on the intention of the speaker. For example, from muchacho, boy, to muchachote, literally meaning big boy, and with amigo, friend, we get amigote. This could be used by, for example, your father, in a kind way or to make a joke. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you soon!
Want to get cheat sheets, audiobooks, lessons, apps, and much more every month for free? Just click the link in the description to get your free language gifts of the month.
Hi, my name is Rosa, and today we will be doing the top 25 phrases in Spanish. So the first one is hola, hello. Hola, which means hello. Hola is a very casual way to greet someone, so you can say hola to your friends and hola to your family and hola to everyone. Adiós, goodbye. Adiós is goodbye. I don't know why, but to me, adiós sounds a bit harsh, so I don't really like saying adiós. It sounds like you're not going to see that person again, maybe. So instead of adiós, I would maybe use hasta luego, which is see you later. Buenos días, good morning. The next one is buenos días, which is good morning. Yep, you say it when you see someone in the morning. So, buenos días. Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Buenas tardes, which is good afternoon. Buenas tardes is used from 12 p.m. on. So yeah, maybe you are having lunch and you see someone, so you say, buenas tardes. Buenas noches, good night. The next one is buenas noches, which means good night. Say like goodbye. When you are going to sleep, you say buenas noches. Is the last thing you say. Buenas noches. Sí, yes. The next phrase is sí, which means yes. For example, if someone asks me, do you want a slice of cheesecake? I would say sí. No, no. The next phrase is no, which means no. For example, do you want to do your homework? No. Nos vemos. See you later. The next one is nos vemos, which is see you later. Very casual. So yeah, you can say it to your friends or yeah, to your family, whatever, when you want to say like goodbye, see you soon. Hasta mañana. See you tomorrow. The next one is hasta mañana, which means see you tomorrow. For example, if you are at the university and you want to say goodbye to your friends, which you won't be seeing until tomorrow, you would say hasta mañana. ¿Cuál es tu nombre? What is your name? So the next phrase is ¿cuál es tu nombre? Which means what is your name? Mi nombre es Rosa. And yeah, what is your name? Tell me. Yo soy Rosa. I am Rosa. The next phrase is yo soy plus your name. So in my case, yo soy Rosa. And it means I am Rosa. What's your name? Encantado de conocerle. Nice to meet you. The next phrase is encantado de conocerle, which is nice to meet you. But the thing is that encantado de conocerle is a bit formal. So if you want to say it to your friends or, I don't know, family, you could say encantado de conocerte. Encantada de conocerte. Gracias. Thank you. The next phrase is gracias, which is thank you. If you want to say thank you very much, you say muchas gracias. Thank you for watching this video. Gracias por ver este video. Thank you. De nada. You're welcome. And the next phrase is de nada, which means you're welcome. So yep, whenever someone says thank you to you, make sure to say de nada. No hay de qué. Don't mention it. The next phrase is no hay de qué. Don't mention it. So if you do a favor to someone and that someone says thank you to you, gracias, you could say no hay de qué. Por favor, please. The next one is por favor, which means please. So if you want to ask for a favor to someone, you would say por favor. Por favor, suscribiros a este canal. Please subscribe to this channel. Perdón. Sorry. The next one is perdón, which is sorry. If you haven't heard something properly and you want the other person to repeat it, you can say perdón. Lo siento. Sorry. The next one is lo siento. I'm sorry. So if you did something wrong, that's what you say. So, for example, if you get late to class, you could say to the teacher, lo siento. Bienvenidos. Welcome. The next one is bienvenidos, which is welcome. Bienvenido. If someone is coming to your house, you can say bienvenidos. ¿Cómo estás? How are you? The next one is ¿cómo estás?, which means how are you? It's not a formal way to say it, but maybe a more informal way would be ¿qué tal? But yeah, I think you can use ¿cómo estás?, like with almost everyone. Like sometimes when you ask ¿cómo estás?, you want like a more in-depth answer. Like you don't want a simple I'm fine, but you really want to know how that person is. But maybe ¿qué tal? Is more casual and it's just like, you just want to hear I'm fine, thank you. For example, if you ask someone ¿cómo estás?, that person could tell you I'm not very good, I lost my job and I'm trying to find a new one, but something like that. ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? The next one is ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? So now it's 4 o'clock, las 4 en punto. ¿Cuánto es? How much? The next one is ¿Cuánto es? How much? So when you enter a shop and you want to know the price of something, you can say ¿Cuánto es? Also, you can say ¿Cuánto cuesta? It's the same thing. ¿Qué es eso? What is that? The next one is ¿Qué es eso? What is that? Yeah, you can point at something and ask ¿Qué es eso? ¿En dónde está el baño? Where is the bathroom? The next one is ¿En dónde está el baño? Where is the bathroom? Yeah, very useful phrase to know. So, for example, if you are in a restaurant and you want to go to the bathroom, you can ask the waiter, ¿Dónde está el baño? And then the waiter indicates you and yeah, you go to the bathroom. No lo comprendo. I don't understand. The next one is no lo comprendo, which is I don't understand it. If someone is talking to you and you are a bit lost, you can say lo siento, sorry, no lo comprendo, I don't understand. If they are nice, they will try to explain it better to you. Also, instead of comprendo, you can also say entiendo. So, no lo entiendo. It will be the same thing. This is the end. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed these top 25 phrases in Spanish and don't forget to subscribe. Bye! I am a bit shy, I don't know.
Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, what are pejoratives and how do you use them in Spanish? In previous lessons, we discussed diminutives and augmentatives, and in this lesson we'll discuss pejoratives. You may already know diminutives make something smaller or affectionate, and augmentatives make something bigger or important. So, what do pejoratives do? Pejoratives are used to emphasize something negative. We'll go over the most common ones in this lesson. Let's go over some examples so you can learn how to use pejoratives correctly. A common pejorative suffix is ucho or ucha. For example, from flaco, slim or thin, we get flacucho. When used in a pejorative sense, it means very slim, as in almost sick. Another example would be for the adjective débil, weak. We get debilucha, used to describe a woman who is physically or psychologically weak. Another pejorative suffix is acho or acha. For example, pueblo, from the Latin populus, meaning people, becomes populazzo, meaning common people or mob. By adding the suffix acho, the speaker shows less consideration for the original meaning of people. Another example would be from pueblo, town, which becomes poblazzo, meaning dirty town or destroyed town. Here's an example sentence. El populazzo cree que puede ganar en las elecciones. It means the common people think that they can win the elections. Usually, people use these suffixes to gossip or to look down on others. You don't always use the same suffixes for every word, as each word is used mostly with just one suffix. So make sure you check which suffix to use before you use it. Here we have other less common pejorative suffixes, like ejo or eja, changing tipo, meaning guy, to tipejo, bad guy, calle, meaning road, to calleja, narrow road, or uzo or uza, from gente, meaning people, we get gentuza, bad people. All of these examples are used pejoratively. Lastly is ato or ata. You could use this for the word niño, boy, and get niñato, brat. Be careful with this word because it has a really bad meaning and can be considered an insult as well. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, until next time! Hi everybody, Rosa here, welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: how do I use Spanish punctuation? Just like in English, punctuation marks are used to provide emphasis, to indicate pauses and intonation changes, and to guide people through the meaning of our expressions. Let's take a look to the basic uses of punctuation marks in Spanish. The first one is el punto. This literally means the dot, but you may know it better as the period in American English or full stop in British English. It's used to mark the ending of a sentence or complete thought. After using a punto, the next word should be capitalized. For example, Juan viene hoy. Mis amigos vendrán mañana. This means Juan is coming today, my friends will come tomorrow. Next, we have la coma, or the comma. This indicates a short pause in a sentence, and its usage is similar to English. For example, viajaré por Andalucía, Zaragoza y Toledo, meaning I will travel to Andalucía, Zaragoza and Toledo. This one sounds different from the English version. El punto y coma. This literally means the dot and comma, but you may know it better as the semicolon. It's used to divide related sections in a single sentence. For example, hoy veremos un buen partido. Sin embargo, creo que mi equipo perderá. Meaning, today we will see a good match. However, I think my team will lose. We can also use the punto y coma in a longer sentence that already has commas. For example, Ana fue al museo, Carlos a la biblioteca y David a la universidad. Meaning, Ana went to the museum, Carlos to the library, and David to the university. Unlike the punto or coma, the punto y coma really depends on the writer's discretion. As a general rule, use the punto y coma if you feel the two sentences are closely related enough to make them into one sentence. After a punto y coma, you always have a lowercase letter. Let's move on to two more punctuation marks you may be familiar with: the signos de interrogación and exclamación. The signos de interrogación is better known in English as the question mark and is used in interrogative sentences. The exclamación sounds similar to the English exclamation point and works the same way. It's used to express surprise, anger, or any other strong emotions. Remember that in Spanish, you could write an inverted question mark or exclamation mark at the beginning of the sentence in addition to the mark at the end. Some examples are: ¿Qué hora es? What time is it? ¿Cómo te llamas? What's your name? ¡Socorro! Help! And vamos, let's go! Finally, the colon, which is dos puntos, ellipsis, which is puntos suspensivos, parenthesis, which is paréntesis, and comillas, which is quotation marks, are used the same way in English as in Spanish. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta la próxima, until next time! Hi everybody, Rosa here, welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: why do some Spanish adjectives and words have a shortened form? Some Spanish adjectives have a shortened form. We call this form apócope, or in English, apocope. This means the suppression of some sounds in the final part of a word. Most adjectives lose their last vowel, for example, o, when they are placed before a singular masculine noun. Sound confusing? Don't worry, there are only a few types of these adjectives in Spanish. Most of them are commonly used and will be easy for you to remember. Here they are. Bueno, meaning good, becomes buen. Malo, meaning bad, becomes mal. Alguno, meaning some, becomes algún. Ninguno, meaning none, becomes ningún. And grande, meaning big, becomes gran. Let's go through some examples so you can learn how to use the shortened forms of these Spanish adjectives. First up, he comprado un buen libro. I bought a good book. In this sentence, the word bueno, meaning good, gets shortened to buen because it was placed before the masculine singular noun libro, meaning book. Another example would be, estoy teniendo un mal año, meaning I'm having a bad year. Again, in this sentence, the word malo, bad, becomes mal because it's placed before the masculine singular noun año, meaning year. You can also see this shortened form with ordinal and numeral adjectives like primero, first, becomes primer, and tercero, third, becomes tercer. With numeral, it sounds like this. Uno, meaning one, becomes un, and ciento, meaning 100, becomes cien. Let's go through some more examples. He escrito mi primer libro, literally meaning I had written my first book. Again, we have the masculine singular noun libro, book, so primero, meaning first, gets shortened to primer. Another example would be, tengo un perro pequeño. I have a little dog. Here, the word perro, dog, is in its singular masculine form, so uno, one, gets shortened to un. Remember that these adjectives only lose the final vowel when they are placed before a singular masculine noun. If placed after the noun or if the noun is feminine, their vowel will remain intact. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you later! Hi everybody, Rosa here, welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, how do I use the pronoun se as an indirect object? Se creates a lot of confusion for students because there are several uses and functions for se in Spanish. In this lesson, we'll see se used as a third-person pronoun functioning as an indirect object. This means that we'll use se when it means a él or a ella, for him or for her, and a ellos or a ellas, both meaning for them. First, let's remember that in Spanish, you can say a él or a ella using the particle le, and a ellos or a ellas using the particle les. Instead of a, you can also use para. Le and les are indirect objects, and to recognize them, we have to see to whom the action of the verb goes. Like, for example, in this sentence, Marta compró un regalo para su novio, meaning Marta bought a present for her boyfriend. We can also say Marta le compró un regalo, meaning Marta bought him a present. The personal pronoun se as an indirect object is used instead of le or les when se comes before one of the pronouns lo, la, los, or las when they are acting as direct objects. Let's do some examples so you can learn how to use se as an indirect object correctly. From the sentence le di las llaves, meaning I gave him the keys, you can say se las di, meaning I gave them to him. Here, se replaces the indirect object le and la replaces the direct object, the keys. From les compré un libro, I bought them a book, we get se lo compré, I bought it for them. Here, se replaces the indirect object les before the direct object lo. Let's do one more example. Abrí la puerta a la profesora. I opened the door for the teacher. La puerta, the door, is the direct object as it's the thing that we open. And a la profesora, literally meaning for the teacher, is the indirect object because it's the person to whom the action goes. So using the pronouns, it would become se la abrí, meaning I opened it for her. Se is for her and la is the door. This way we can refer to the things or people we've already talked about without having to repeat them. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you later. Hasta luego. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: how can I use the pronoun se reciprocally? In this lesson, we are going to focus on another common and important usage of the pronoun se. Okay, let's go! We can see the reciprocal pronoun se when we have two or more subjects who are doing the same action to each other. Here, se would function as the direct object, but will be the indirect object if there's another direct object that is formally expressed. Let's take, for example, Carlos y Juan se pelean, meaning Carlos and Juan fight with each other. Here, se acts as the direct object because the thing that they are fighting is themselves. Another example would be los amigos se escriben cartas, literally meaning the friends write letters among them. Here, the direct object is cartas, letters, which is the thing that they are writing, and se acts as the indirect object as it's to whom the action goes. A helpful tip to identify this kind of se is to add el uno al otro, meaning to each other, el uno con el otro, literally meaning one with the other, mutuamente, meaning mutually, or recíprocamente, meaning reciprocally, to the end of the sentence. If the sentence's meaning doesn't change, we need to use reciprocal se. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you later! Another major difference is that Castilian Spanish often uses the plural form vosotros instead of the form ustedes, which is used in Latin America. Pretty fascinating, isn't it? If you have any other questions, leave a comment and I'll try to answer them. Ciao! Hello everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, how can you tell if a noun is masculine or feminine? In Spanish, every noun has a gender. That applies to plural nouns too. Other Romance languages have masculine and feminine nouns too. It's a trait that comes from Latin, and the gender can depend on its origin in an older Latin word. English doesn't have masculine or feminine nouns, so the easiest way to tell the gender of a noun is to take a look at the last letter of a noun. The general rule is that if a noun ends in A, it is feminine. For example, la manzana, the apple, la ventana, the window, and la casa, the house. Nouns that end in O are generally masculine. For example, el horno, the oven, el perro, the dog, and el libro, the book. The only thing is, there are a lot of exceptions. For example, el mapa, which is the map, even though it ends in A, it is masculine. And el día, meaning the day, which is also masculine. Some other examples are la foto, meaning the photo, which is feminine even though it ends in an O, and la mano, the hand, which is also feminine. Because there are so many exceptions, it's best to learn the nouns with their articles. These are the and a in English. For Spanish, it would be el or un for masculine words, and la or una for feminine words. However, O and A are not the only indicators for masculine and feminine words. Here are a few others. Nouns that end in E, ma, or an accented vowel such as I are often masculine. For example, el perfume, the perfume, el programa, the program, el colibrí, the hummingbird, are all masculine. On the other hand, nouns that end in D, Z, or ion are normally feminine. For example, la felicidad, the happiness, la nariz, the nose, and la religión, the religion, are feminine. It's important to remember what gender a noun is because it sometimes influences other parts of the sentence. They modify. Adjectives in particular change their spelling according to the gender of the nouns they modify. It goes a bit like this. A notebook, un cuaderno, is masculine. So to say a red notebook, you could say un cuaderno rojo. An apple, una manzana, is feminine. So a red apple could be una manzana roja, with rojo changing to roja, ending with an A. I hope that answers the questions. If you have any more questions, please let them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, when do we use por qué, por qué, por qué, and por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué? Separated, together, with an accent, without an accent? What's the difference? In this lesson, we'll teach you how to choose the right one. Let's start with por qué. All one word with an accent over the E. This is a masculine substantive meaning cause, motive, or reason. Normally, an article precedes it. An example would be, no quiero saber el por qué. In this case, the meaning is, I don't want to know the cause, motive, or reason. It also has the plural form, los porqués. Next, let's move on to ¿por qué? Separated with an accent over the E. This phrase is used to ask about the cause, the reason, or motive of something. It is comprised of the preposition por and the interrogative pronoun que. The accent mark distinguishes it from the relative conjunction que. In this case, ¿por qué functions as why. For example, ¿por qué no has llegado antes? Meaning, why didn't you come earlier? Here, we are asking what the cause or reason is for why the person didn't come sooner. To answer the question, ¿por qué?, we often use our next word, porque. All one word and no accent over the E. It's a conjunction used to introduce subordinate sentences that express cause. For example, no pude venir más temprano porque he perdido el tren. Meaning, I couldn't come before because I lost the train. In this case, porque functions as because. Our last one is por qué, separated and no accent over the E. There are two grammatical uses for this one. The first use is the preposition por plus the relative pronoun que. For example, son varios los motivos por que te llamo. Literally, there are various reasons for which I call you. Sometimes you can find an article between por and que. Por el que, por la que, por los que, or por las que. Usually it means for which. In the second use, it's comprised of the preposition por plus the subordinating conjunction que. We find it when we have specific verbs that require the preposition por. For example, estoy contento porque vengas a visitarme. Literally translated as I'm happy for that you are going to visit me. So remember, ¿por qué? The reason is a noun. ¿Por qué? Why makes questions. ¿Por qué? Because answers questions. And por qué for which or verbs that require por. How was it? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, when are the prepositions por and para used? The prepositions por and para are a little difficult for Spanish learners because both are used in similar contexts and have similar meanings. In English, the prepositions por and para are frequently translated as for, by, and to. Let's go over por and para so you can learn how to use them correctly. Por comes from the Latin word pro, meaning for, while para is formed from the combination of the Latin prepositions pro and ad, which mean for and to respectively. Por is frequently used to express a cause, such as viajo por placer, meaning I travel for pleasure, a place, such as camino por la calle, meaning I walk down the street, a period of time, por las mañanas voy a la universidad, in the morning I go to college, a medium, te enviaré el paquete por mensajero, I'll send the package by courier. A substitution or equivalence, haré los deberes por ti, I will do the tasks for you. And passive voice, el almuerzo fue preparado por mi madre, lunch was prepared by my mother. Para is used for. Utility, estas zapatillas son para correr, meaning these shoes are for running. Direction, voy para Europa en vacaciones, I'm going to Europe on vacation. Here, it can be replaced by con destino a, which means bound for. Time limitation, son 10 para las 5, it's 10 minutes to 5. Here, the difference is that we use para when time is fixed or when there's a deadline. Opinion, para mí que perderán el juego. I think that they will lose the game. Literally, for me, that they will lose the game. And goal or destination, to where or to whom it goes, as in, saldré a caminar para respirar aire fresco, meaning, I will go for a walk to get some fresh air. Here, the goal is to get fresh air. The most challenging point may be to identify when to use por instead of para. Just keep in mind that por is used more frequently to talk about a medium to do something. As in, te llamaré por teléfono, I will call you by phone. Another common usage is to refer to something unspecific, either time or place. For example, estoy por tu casa, meaning I'm around, close to your house. Or llegaré por la tarde, meaning I will arrive around the afternoon. Para, on the other hand, is more often used to talk about the purpose or destination of something. As in, este libro es para la clase, meaning this book is for the class. Or voy para tu casa, meaning I'm going to or in direction to your house. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you later. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: when do you use the conjunction e instead of I? First, let's go over some background information on how to use I. I is a conjunction in Spanish that means and. It's a conjunción coordinada copulativa, or copulative coordinating conjunction. It's used to connect words or sentences. An example with words would be: he estudiado historia y literatura, meaning I've studied history and literature. Here, the words historia, history, and literatura, literature, are connected with the word I, and. An example with sentences would be: el sábado iré a Madrid y el domingo quiero ir al Museo del Prado. Meaning, on Saturday I will go to Madrid and on Sunday I want to go to the Prado Museum. Here, I, meaning and, is used to connect both weekend activities. Now, on to the question for this lesson. When the word I precedes a word that begins with an I sound, it changes to E. This includes H and I together because H is silent in Spanish. Let's go through some examples so you can learn when to use E instead of I. Mañana quiero levantarme temprano e ir de compras means tomorrow I want to get up early and go shopping. Here, the verb ir, meaning to go, begins with an I. Therefore, I changes to E. Let's do one more example. Son hermanos, pero parecen padre e hijo. They are brothers, but they look like father and son. Here, the word hijo, son, is spelled H-I, but has an I sound. Therefore, I changes to E. A good thing to remember is words that have been borrowed from other languages such as English and maintain their original pronunciation also require I to change, like in this example. Me pidió dirección e email, meaning he asked for my direction and email. This is because the word email has an E sound. Now here's the tricky part. If the word begins with I or HI but doesn't make an E sound, then you don't have to use E instead of E. For example, words that have an initial diphthong like coge la olla y hierve las verduras, meaning pick the pot and boil the vegetables, don't need E to change as the sound is different than E. So why do the words change? That's easy, because it's easier to pronounce. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: how do you know when to use ser or estar? This can be confusing for Spanish learners, especially for native English speakers, because both ser and estar mean to be. First, let's go over the forms of ser. I am, yo soy, you are, singular, tú eres. He, she is, you are, polite. Él, ella, usted es. We are, nosotros somos, you are, plural, vosotros sois. They are, you are, polite and plural, ellos, ellas, ustedes, son. The different forms of estar are: yo estoy for I am, tú estás for you are, singular. Él, ella, usted está for he, she is, you are, polite. Nosotros estamos for we are. Vosotros estáis for you are in polite form. And ellos, ellas, ustedes están for they are. You are, polite and plural. There is a subtle but simple difference between the two words for to be. Estar is for temporary conditions such as feelings and emotions, and that's why how are you is ¿cómo estás? Ser is for characteristics or permanent states of being. For example, if I'd say I am American, I would say yo soy americano. Here's a good rule of thumb. Turn the sentence into a question. If the question uses how, then use estar. And if it uses what, use ser. Take the word callado, for example, which means quiet. Depending on which verb you use, the nouns will be different. If you say ella es callada, which uses ser, that means she's quiet, as in she's a quiet person. On the other hand, if you say ella está callada, which uses the verb estar, that would mean she's being quiet. The nuance is that this situation is temporary and that she's just being quiet in this moment in time. Pretty cool, right? If you have any more questions, please leave a comment and I'll try to answer them. Bye! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are false friends? There are a lot of words that look similar in English and Spanish, but they don't always mean the same thing. False friends is a great name for them because they can be a bit deceptive. Here are some of the most common false friends. Beware of this so you can avoid misunderstanding when speaking Spanish with others. Asistir doesn't mean to help, that is, ayudar. Asistir is to attend. For example, to attend a concert could be asistir a un concierto. Likewise, un asistente is an attendee, and asistencia is attendance. In a more shocking example, molestar isn't as bad as it sounds, it just means to bother. And you won't find un éxito in a building, éxito means success. For your studies, lectura is another one that is easy to misinterpret. Lectura means reading. And a lecture could be una conferencia or una clase. Another example is una carpeta, which isn't a carpet, but a folder. And una librería is actually a bookstore, so don't expect to borrow anything for free. The word for library is biblioteca. And what's how you use actual? Because actual means current. Actualmente means currently. Be careful with embarazada too. Embarrassed is avergonzado for men and avergonzada for women. Don't use embarazado with a man because it means pregnant. If you see sopa on a restaurant menu, don't be alarmed, it's just soup. If you hear someone say delito though, which may be mistaken for delight, you should be concerned because it's actually crime. Last but not least, constipado can be a bit confusing. As an adjective, it means constipated, but used as a noun, it refers to the common cold. Pretty interesting, right? I hope that answers the questions. If you have any other questions, please leave a comment below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta la próxima! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, how do you make sentences negative in Spanish? You can make the most basic negative sentence just by adding no before the verb. For example, hoy es lunes is today is Monday. Hoy no es lunes is today is not Monday. Here are some other common negative words. Nada meaning nothing. Nadie meaning nobody. Ninguno or ninguna meaning no one. Nunca and jamás meaning never. And tampoco meaning neither. You can also use these words on their own or with no. So you can say nadie habla, which means no one speaks, but you could also say no habla nadie, which means the same thing. No hay nada en el refrigerador means I have nothing in the refrigerator. And like in English, double negatives are standard and acceptable, so you can use more than one negative word in a sentence. Actually, in Spanish, you never mix positive and negative words, so it's common to have 2, 3, or even 4 negative words in the same sentence. For example, in English we say María doesn't want anything. In Spanish we would say María no quiere nada. Remember, nada means nothing, so the direct translation into English would be something like María doesn't want nothing. You can even say María no quiere nada nunca for María never wants anything, which uses 3 negative words. Ningún changes form depending on the noun it's attached to. For masculine nouns, you say ningún. And for example, no tengo ningún libro would be I don't have any books. If you use ningún without using the masculine noun, you use ninguno. Say you're responding to the question, ¿Tienes algún libro? Which is, do you have any books? You would say, no, no tengo ninguno. No, I don't have any. For feminine nouns, you use ninguna in both situations. Not so bad, right? If you have any more questions, please leave a comment below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to Ask a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is, why do you say el agua if agua ends with an A? Shouldn't it be feminine? You may have already learned that with most Spanish nouns, words that end in A are usually feminine and words that end in N or O are usually masculine. However, the word agua, water, ends in A, but we use the article el to make el agua, the water. So why do we do this? The reason is simpler than you think. Every time a feminine word starts with the letter A with a strong accent, the preceding article is masculine. So feminine words beginning with a strong A like agua, águila, área, hacha, and alma will use the article el. Let's do some examples so you can learn how to use these nouns and their articles correctly. First up, el águila vigila el agua, meaning the eagle guards the water. We change the definite article the same way we change the indefinite article una to un. Like in tengo un hacha, tengo una hacha, meaning I have an axe. Both are correct, but un is preferred as the word hacha has a strong a sound. However, when we use demonstratives such as este, ese, and aquel, meaning this, that, and that, or determiner adjectives such as todo, mucho, poco, and otro, meaning everything, a lot of, a bit of, and other, respectively, the rule is no longer used, and these words use their feminine forms. Take the example, de esta agua no beberé, meaning I won't drink this water. We use the word este, this, which is changed to esta to match the real gender of the noun. And remember that because these words are truly feminine, everything else that complements the word uses the feminine form. For example, el agua fría me encanta. I love cold water. So, even though we change the article, we keep the adjective fría, meaning cold feminine, to match the true gender of the noun. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you soon! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: why is the adjective sometimes written before the noun in Spanish? In Spanish, adjectives are usually placed after the noun, but sometimes adjectives precede the noun. When that happens, some adjectives change their meaning. If we use these adjectives before the noun, the meaning is objective or descriptive. When it's placed after the noun, as usual, the meaning is subjective or connotative. Let's go through some examples so you can learn how to use adjectives before nouns correctly in Spanish. Let's take the adjective pobre, meaning poor. If you put the word pobre before the noun man, which is hombre, then the speaker could be implying that the pobre hombre, poor man, is someone he or she pities or someone who deserves sympathy. However, if you switch them, the phrase becomes hombre pobre. This could quite literally mean a man who has no money. Let's do another example with the adjective viejo, meaning old. If you add viejo to the word friend, which is amigo, you will get the phrase viejo amigo, old friend. In this case, viejo represents the length of time the speaker has been friends with that person. The same way you would say old friend in English. However, if you were to reverse the phrase and say amigo viejo, then you would be literally talking about a friend who is elderly. An important point to remember is that if the adjective is talking about the quality of a noun that's always the same, the position of the adjective doesn't change the meaning. For example, oscura noche or noche oscura both mean dark night, because night is always dark. The same way that fría nieve or nieve fría both mean cold snow, because snow is always cold. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you soon! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are some examples of the slang tío and tía? In this lesson, we are going to focus on one of the most habitual words used in colloquial Spanish, the slang tío, which is masculine, and tía, which is feminine. You can hear tío and tía every day and almost anywhere if you're in Spain. The most standard use of tío is uncle, and for tía it's aunt. For example, mi tío es de Barcelona, meaning my uncle is from Barcelona. However, this lesson is going to talk about how tío and tía are used in slang. Let's look some examples. If you greet someone, you can say hola tío, meaning hey dude, or ¿cómo estás tío? Literally, how are you dude? These words also can be used when you talk about an unknown person. For example, ayer vino un tío simpático a verte, meaning yesterday a nice guy came to meet you. It's also common to address your friends using the word tíos. For example, ¿qué pasa tíos? Meaning, what's up guys? There are also some other words in Spanish that can be used like tío and tía. For example, pavo and pava. These words literally mean turkey, but you can replace tío with pavo in a sentence like this. ¿Qué quiere ese pavo? What's up with that man? Two other words would be chaval and chavala. These words usually mean kid, but many times they can be used as tío and tía. For example, ¿todo bien, chaval? Is it all okay, dude? Please note that the slang use of tío and tía is limited to Spain. The rest of the Spanish-speaking countries only use tío and tía to mean uncle and aunt. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you later. Hasta luego. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are some popular Spanish idioms? In English, we have our fair share of idioms like it's raining cats and dogs, or even what's up? Here are some Spanish idioms you should know. Number 10 is estar empanado, meaning to be spaced out. Literally, it means to be breaded. In Spain, we have a lot of breaded foods like la empanada gallega. So every time your mind freezes and you can think, you're getting empanado or empanada. Number 9 is dormir como un tronco, meaning to sleep like a trunk. This means that you slept very well. For example, he dormido como un tronco, meaning I slept like a trunk. Number 8, chorizo, means sausage. And if you are carnivorous, you are going to find Spanish chorizo delicious. But don't be surprised if you hear this word in reference to a person. That means they are a thief, burglar, or swindler. Number 7 is one that doesn't make much sense, but you'll often hear. It is hace un tiempo de perros. Literally, it's a dog weather, meaning it's terrible weather. Number 6 is a phonetic challenge. ¡Qué chorrada! Chorrada, wow, sounds difficult. We have the CH and a double R. So what does chorrada mean? If we say ¡qué chorrada!, we are expressing that something is not important, has no sense, or is absurd. Number 5 is costar un ojo de la cara, which means it's ridiculously expensive, but it literally means it costs an eye out of the head. Number 4, aprobar por los pelos, literally means to pass by the hair, referring to an exam. If you say aprobé por los pelos, you're saying that you got the lowest score or close to it, but passed the exam. Hopefully, you don't use this expression too much. Number 3 is qué guay, meaning cool. Here we have a very useful multipurpose word. Do you want to go to the beach? Why? Do you like my trousers? Qué guays. How was the party last night? Muy guay. It's similar to good, okay, perfect, or beautiful. However, be careful. It should only be used in casual or colloquial situations. Number 2 is Tener un cacao. Literally translated, it means to have a cacao. However, the real meaning is to have a lot of trouble or to be in a mess. Lastly, number 1 is tener el guapo subido, which literally means to have the good looking up. The meaning of this may be easy for you to guess. You can use this phrase when suddenly one of your friends looks stunning. ¿Te ha pasado algo bueno? Hoy tienes el guapo subido. Did anything good happen to you? Today you're looking handsome. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you later! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: how do you use adjectives as nouns in Spanish? In Spanish, we can omit the noun and use the adjective as the noun. When an adjective is used as a noun, we call it adjetivo sustantivado, which means adjective used as a noun. Does that sound confusing? Let's go through some examples. Let's say you are at a furniture store and you want to buy a chair. If we are looking at a bunch of different colored chairs, you can use la silla roja to refer to the red chair. However, in this case, you've already mentioned the chairs and their colors, so you can just say la roja, which means the red one. By using an article with an adjective, you can make it a noun. In this case, we use la because la silla, the chair, is feminine. Then, we added the adjective roja to make la roja to mean the red chair. Likewise, if you're discussing different colored hats, you'd use the masculine noun sombrero. That means we have to change la to the masculine article el. Then, if you would like to buy the red hat, you would say el rojo, por favor, meaning the red one, please. Take into consideration that the adjective has to match the noun in gender and number. Silla is a feminine noun, so we use roja, which is also feminine. Sombrero is a masculine noun, so we use rojo, which is also masculine. Superlatives can also become nouns in Spanish. Apart from the direct translation of the best, which is el mejor or la mejor, you can use any adjective, plus an article, plus either más for most or menos for least to make a superlative sentence. Más on its own means more, but with an article it means most. Take el más grande, for example. Grande means big, so el grande means the big one in general. But if you said el más grande, that means the biggest one. Similarly to más, menos means less on its own, but least with an article. La menos rápida, for example, literally means the least fast one, or more naturally, the slowest. It's important to know that because we use la in this sentence, we know that we are talking about a feminine noun. If we were talking about a masculine noun, the sentence could be el menos rápido. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you soon! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: when do you use the conjunction u instead of o? First, let's go over some background information on how to use o. O is a conjunction in Spanish that means or. It's a conjunción coordinada disyuntiva, or disjunctive coordinating conjunction. That means it connects two different sentences and it used to give contrast or connect contrary opinions. An example of contrast would be: sal a trabajar ahora o no llegarás a tiempo, meaning go to work now or you are not going to be on time. Here, that means if part A, go to work, doesn't happen, part B, you are not going to be there on time, will happen. An example of connecting contrary opinions would be: ¿Qué quieres de postre? ¿Helado o fruta? Meaning, what do you want for dessert? Ice cream or fruit? This is the most common use of o. Now, on to the question for this lesson. O changes to u when or precedes a word that begins with an o sound. This includes H and O together because H is silent in Spanish. Let's go through some examples so you can learn when to use U instead of O. First up, más vale que vengas a la hora u otra persona te quitará el sitio. Meaning, you better come on time or another person is going to take your place. Here, the word otra, another, begins with an O sound. Therefore, we change O to U. Another example would be: puede utilizar esta mesa para jardín u hogar. Meaning, you can use this table for the garden or home. So why do the words change? That's easy, because it's easier to pronounce. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego, see you later! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are some Spanish idioms that refer to parts of the human body? English speakers have phrases like a pain in the neck and get back on your feet. In this lesson, we are going to discuss idioms about body parts in Spanish. One day in Spain, someone may gently say to you, ¿te echo una mano? Literally translated as, can I give or cast you a hand? It works in a similar way to the English expression and more naturally translates as, can I help you? If someone pone la mano en el fuego por ti, or puts the hand in the fire for you, consider yourself lucky, because the expression poner la mano en el fuego is a solemn way of showing loyalty to someone. For example, pongo la mano en el fuego por mis hijos. I put the hand in the fire for my sons. You are expressing that you trust your sons no matter what. If you know someone who really tells it like it is, you can say, no tiene pelos en la lengua, literally meaning, he, she, hasn't hair in the tongue. This means that you are very frank and don't hide your true feelings about something. You may be familiar with the Spanish word boca, meaning mouth. However, be careful of bocazas. Bocazas literally translates as someone with a big mouth and describes a person who can't stop speaking or someone who tells your secrets. It can be used affectionately with friends, but strangers would take offense to this, so be careful. Another idiom involving the mouth is lo tengo en la punta de la lengua, or literally, I have it on the tip of the tongue. You can use it when you are very close to remembering a word or phrase you've forgotten. If you are having problems at work or at home and need to accept responsibility for some wrongdoing, you'll need to dar la cara, or to give the face. For example, te equivocaste, ahora tienes que dar la cara. Literally, you were wrong, now you have to give the face. This means you can't hide and must face the consequences of your actions. Let's do one with the eyes. For example, andar con ojo, to walk with eye. This is used when you have to take care or be cautious about something. It's like the English to sleep with one eye open. Tener buen ojo means to have a good eye. Like to the English meaning, it expresses that you have a good sense when you choose or decide something. Another one would be costar un ojo de la cara, meaning to cost an eye of the face. This means to pay a lot of money for something or that something is very expensive. Please note that these expressions often use the singular ojo, eye, instead of ojos, eyes. If we go back down the body, we arrive at the feet. Entrar con buen pie or entrar con mal pie. Literally, to enter somewhere with good foot or to enter somewhere with bad foot. This means that you're starting something with good or bad luck. The same way English speakers might say to start off on the right foot. For example, he entrado con buen pie en la familia de mi esposa. Literally, I entered with good foot in my wife's family. And don't feel strange if someone te toma el pelo, meaning takes your hair, because that just means someone is teasing. For example, Ana, no me tomes el pelo, meaning, Ana, don't mock me. Another funny expression is rascarse la barriga, scratch your own belly. This means that you're lazy or don't want to do anything. For example, mi marido se pasa el día rascándose la barriga. Literally, my husband passes the day scratching his belly. Our last one is about effort and hard work. It's dejarse la piel, meaning leave the skin. For example, me voy a dejar la piel por aprobar el examen. Literally, I'm going to leave my skin to pass the exam. It means that you will do everything necessary to achieve the goal you want. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comment below and I'll try to answer them. Hasta luego! See you later! Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are some Spanish business expressions? If we consider that about 500 million people are native Spanish speakers, we can understand why Spanish is becoming one of the most used languages in the world of business. In this lesson, we'll go over some basic business expressions that you can use in Spanish. Disculpen el retraso, which means I am sorry for being late, is a very useful phrase. You can use this for whenever you can't manage to be on time for a meeting or just coming late to the office. You can also say lamento el retraso, which means the same thing but the sense of regret is stronger. And don't forget to offer your tarjeta de visita or business card when you are beginning a business relationship with someone. A very useful expression to learn is the combination of a substantive plus the complement de negocios, which means of business. Following this combination, we can form expressions like cena de negocios, meaning business dinner, viaje de negocios, meaning business trip, reunión de negocios, meaning business meeting, centro de negocios, meaning business center, visita de negocios, meaning business visit, and many others. Like in the examples, hoy tengo una cena de negocios, meaning today I have a business dinner, or ¿dónde tendremos la reunión de negocios? Where will we have the business meeting? If you're asked to write a report and want to know when it's due, you can ask, ¿cuándo debo entregar el informe? Which literally means, when should I give the report? If you're a little busy at work and want to let your coworkers know, you can use this phrase, estoy a tope de trabajo. An example would be, estoy a tope de trabajo, no puedo hacer nada más, which means, I'm overwhelmed by work, I can't do anything more. Tener en cuenta is another great idiom to use in business. It literally means to realize or to be aware. Let's go over how to use it. For example, if your team has a lot of work to do, but you'll be out of town the following week, you can say, tened en cuenta que estaré de vacaciones la próxima semana, which means, take into consideration that I'm on vacation next week. When work is finished, you can use the phrase, ha sido un placer colaborar con ustedes, o vosotros, which means, it's a pleasure doing business with you. You could use ustedes, which is you in the plural form in a formal context, or vosotros, which is you in the plural form in an informal context. You can also use trabajar, which means work, instead of colaborar. With trabajar, the phrase would be ha sido un placer trabajar con ustedes o vosotros, which means it has been a pleasure working with you. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you later. Hasta luego. Hi everybody, Rosa here. Welcome to As a Teacher, where I'll answer some of your most common Spanish questions. The question for this lesson is: what are reflexive verbs and how do you use them? Before we get into pronouns, let's cover the basics. Every sentence has a subject and an object. For example, in the sentence, yo compré un paraguas, which means I bought an umbrella, yo, which is I, is the subject, and un paraguas, which is an umbrella, is the object. With some sentences, the subject and the object are the same. This is when you use reflexive verbs, which are verbs used with reflexive pronouns. Some common examples are lavarse, literally meaning to wash oneself, dirigirse a, meaning to address oneself to, acostarse, meaning to put oneself to bed, and vestirse, meaning to dress oneself. These are all reflexive verbs. They all have the pronoun se attached to the verb, and they generally mean that the action described by the verb is working on the subject itself. The reflexive pronouns are me with yo for myself, te with tú for yourself informal, se with él, ella, usted for himself, herself, and yourself formal respectively, nos with nosotros for ourselves, and os with vosotros for yourselves informal, se with ellos, ellas for themselves, and with ustedes for yourselves formal. Let's go through some examples so you can learn how to use Spanish reflexive verbs correctly. First up, yo voy a acostarme, literally, I'm going to put myself to bed. If you and your family get up early in the morning, you could say, nosotros nos levantamos temprano en la mañana, literally, we wake up ourselves early in the morning. Using me, you can say, yo me compro un libro, which literally means I buy a book to myself. Using te, tú te compras un libro, meaning you buy a book to yourself. Using se, él se compra un libro, meaning he buys a book to himself, and so on. Notice that since these verbs use reflexive pronouns, their objects usually lack the possessive adjectives that appear in English. For example, él se lava las manos means he washes his hands. However, if you translated it word for word, it could sound like he washes the hands to himself. This also goes for other phrases like él se lava el pelo, he washes his hair, and él se cepilla los dientes for he brushes his teeth. You can also use reflexive pronouns with emotions to make them stronger. For example, if you made your mother angry, you could say ella se enfadó, as in she became angry. Note that with reflexive pronouns, you conjugate the verb according to the subject. If it were your father or your uncle who were angry, you would write ellos se enfadaron, they became angry. How was this lesson? Pretty interesting, right? Do you have any more questions? Please leave them in the comments below and I'll try to answer them. See you later. Hasta luego.